Hello there, gamers, and welcome to another edition of Random News of Gaming, the monthly gaming news show that never gets anything right and you should totally not watch it. There's my late April Fool's joke out of the way. Yeah, I'm not doing the TTS this time because I just don't want to. A lot of the stuff I'm about to talk about here is no laughing matter, and I think it'd be better to just do this as I normally do. And most importantly, this video is late again anyway. Haha. Quick promo before I get into it, you can join membership if you want access to custom emotes for comments and live stream chats. And I will be putting certain old videos and streams behind this, so keep that in mind. It's only 99 cents, but if you don't want to do that, that's okay. If you click the join button and click the options button, you can turn on the gift setting, which will allow you to receive gifted memberships, whether you tune into the streams live or not. The reason I'm mentioning this here, in case you missed my community post, is that we got an influx of gifted memberships during the live streams, but there were not enough people opted in to receive them, and I'd love to have as many people to receive these as possible. Big thank yous to those who have joined and gifted memberships, including Outcast Time Traveler, Sonic Blast, Cult Classic Cage, and Angry Canadian. You guys rock. Now, onto the garbage. Actually, the first thing I want to talk about this time is a positive story. And this is probably the first time I've led one of these videos with a positive story. Steam. I actually saved two stories from previous month's video because I thought it would be more relevant to mention them here. Totally not because I forgot to include them or anything, definitely not. Haha. The first being that Steam has banned in-game advertisements, specifically commercial ads you are forced to watch before playing the games. This is undeniably a good thing because having to watch ads to play games sucks. I imagine this is like 99% only in free-to-play games since it's not exactly the worst thing in the world since it's a trade-off for playing the game for free. But I could see this being a problem since Steam doesn't curate the ads in-game, the developer and publisher do. So it could allow them to sneak in ads that otherwise would violate Steam's policies or even the law. The second story I saved was how Steam is now warning people about certain early access games. Previously, games would be left in early access for long periods of time without any way to tell if it was abandoned or not. But now, games in early access with more than 1 year of inactivity will now have a conspicuous warning label on the early access section of the Steam page. While it's true it was already possible to check if a game was abandoned by looking at the update section or the discussions page, this makes it much more upfront and transparent, which is always a good thing. Now, how are these two related to what the actual story about Steam is for this video? Well, Steam broke a huge milestone early in March. 40 million concurrent users. That's 40 million active users playing any game at a given time. Monster Hunter Wilds being the big game that likely pushed them over the milestone for the first time. So, congrats to Steam. All they had to do to achieve this was just keep doing what they've always done, being the most pro-consumer platform on the PC market. And while this one is very subjective, more proof of how pro-consumer they are came out after this as well, when a certain game developer went public and slightly viral when they complained about Steam's approach to discussion moderation, which is to be mostly hands-off because censoring your critics and potential customer base is a losing battle. And if some games in recent years are any indication, people don't take lightly to being silenced for their criticism, regardless of how poor the criticisms or complaints are. And of course, the gamer has a problem with this, one of the most anti-consumer and anti-gamer digital rags on the internet. So, good on Valve for this, and they are correct in my opinion. Enabling the silencing of complaints and criticisms is a losing battle, and the wrong thing to do. Alright, good. We got the positive stuff out of the way, so let's get into the actual garbage now, starting with Ubisoft. Yeah, so I'm going to keep this short. Assassin's Creed Shadows. What's the verdict? Well, it wasn't long after the game's release that Tencent bought a massive share in the company, so they're not telling us what's really going on. Instead, Ubisoft just keeps putting out the numbers to try and save face, claiming to have over 3 million players for Assassin's Creed Shadows. Keyword: players. This is not 3 million sales. The majority of those players are probably taking advantage of Ubisoft's subscription service for a month or so, because the numbers on Steam are very unimpressive for what's supposed to be one of the bigger games of the year. So now, they are largely owned by Tencent and the CCP, which may result in some of their older games getting altered or censored in some way. They released a patch for Far Cry 4 not long after this that censored some of the nudity in the game, which may be related to the Tencent partnership, but that hasn't been confirmed. We'll see what happens. As for Assassin's Creed Shadows itself, what do you want me to say? It's another case of a game that's been getting rallied against all month long, and I just kinda stopped tuning in to content creators talking about the game regardless of their opinions on it. So I don't want to make any, uneducated statements, like I did with the KCD2 drama from last month. I'll own up to that, just saying. But the game seems to be another mid-Ubisoft game, pretty to look at but shadow as a puddle, and has lost its identity compared to where the series began. According to what I've heard, at least. Some of the voice acting I've heard sounds horrendous for some reason, and there have been quite a few amusing glitches floating around the internet, so... time to do what I usually do here, montage time! See, even though it's not supposed to be like this, it makes me want to play the game more than anything else I've seen so far. Haha. I've said it before, but I think we'd be better off if Ubisoft sold their IPs and left the industry. Every time they're in the news cycle, it's always negative. Like this one, where they are taking a page out of modern Squeenix's book and threatening to sue critics who engage in harassment of their employees. I think I've said this before, but there's no reason to actually harass developers, or anyone really. But again, this always sounds like a way to just silence unwanted criticism. Like that guy in the last RNG video, who seems to conflate harassment and criticism quite readily. I don't trust them with something like this. Just do us all a favor and go away, Ubisoft. Well, release Beyond Good and Evil 2 first, then leave. That's kind of the only game of theirs that interests me, but I doubt we'll ever see it at this rate. Also, one thing I want to mention is that I see a lot of unhealthy obsession with games like Assassin's Creed Shadows on social media, despite the detractors not actually playing the game. I think you would be better off if you just ignored the game and put your free time to something else, like, playing and supporting games that are actually good. Why do you think I make these videos with such a long release list at the end? There's so much good content out there, you don't need to obsess over the AAA or quadruple A slop that comes out every year. Just let them fade away. We'd all be better off. And just in case you needed another reason to want this company to die, Future Chow here. I almost forgot to include this shit show of a story. Ubisoft has an update about their sexual harassment allegations from several years ago, and the testimonies are certainly interesting to read. Like, for example, well, you can read it on screen if you want. Keep in mind this is an auto-translated article, but you can get the idea. Future Chow out. On the other hand, there's one company that's been making a surprising comeback lately, and that's Konami. It seems they've moved away from sitting on their ass making money through gambling machines and being corpo dickheads, unless they're still doing that and I just don't know about it, but they've actually been putting out games. And they announced something interesting last month, a new entry in the Silent Hill series, Silent Hill F. From the looks of it, it has some serious potential. Some have said, what the hell does this game's story have anything to do with Silent Hill? But aside from that, it looks really promising. However, they kinda stepped in it and may have ruined the game for a lot of people because they decided to put this strange trigger warning on the Steam page and probably exists somewhere on the console store pages too. And now that it's gone viral, kinda hard to just simply ignore it now. Now, I'm not very familiar with the subject matter of the Silent Hill series, so some of this content warning may come as no surprise to those who are. But what if you wanted to go into it as blind as possible? That's what I like to do. I like it better when interesting, shocking, scary, subversive, or disturbing plot points come as a surprise. Now that I see this content warning, I'm now less interested in the game because now I know, or at least have an idea of what's going to happen or be explained as part of the story. At least some of the twists and turns will now be so much less impactful, and that sucks. They basically spoiled some pretty important aspects of the game, and for what? Well, there's a few angles to why they are doing this. One is to avoid needless drama and complaints from adult children on the internet, which is unfortunately a normal thing now. But also, I've heard some people say that there is a legal angle to it, that it's actually possible for media companies to be sued for causing undue emotional or psychological distress, which sounds absurd, but we've all heard some bizarre court case rulings before. I wouldn't rule it out, just saying. I just hate how creatives are forced to have their vision compromised like this for the most petty reasons. Because of this content warning, many players' experience will be altered in some way, probably for the worse. Though that's just an assumption on my end. Still, if these games are made for adults, that should be the end of it. Treat your audience like actual adults. Oh, and I almost forgot, the game got banned in Australia. Moving on, we have another political topic to go over, but this one is concerning because it's one of those things that on the surface sounds like a good thing, but is probably an overreach and an attempt at expanding the state's power in disguise. In Texas, a bill was passed with the goal of outlawing AI-generated child pornography. Sounds good, right? Well, the wording of this bill is where the problem lies.
A person commits an offense if the person knowingly possesses, accesses with intent to view, or promotes obscene visual material containing a depiction that appears to be of a child younger than 18 years of age engaging in activities described by Section 43.21a, 1b, regardless of whether the depiction is an image of an actual child, a cartoon or animation, or an image created using an artificial intelligence application or other computer software.
So, this could mean that no matter where the source of this content comes from, and no matter what the content actually depicts, it could be illegal under this law. The terms are too vague and up to interpretation. Under these terms, there are quite a few anime series, you know, like fucking Dragon Ball even, and some video games that could be illegal, which is why I'm bringing it up here. This article by Dexerto gives Persona as an example, since you play as a high schooler who can date other high schoolers, with several very fan-servicey scenes in the game. Is this considered obscene? Is the player engaging in obscenity by playing the role of a main character and lusting after high school characters? What about a certain game that's a favorite of mine? I don't want to say which one it is because it's a massive spoiler, but if you're familiar with the channel and the series, you'll know. But it depicts the aftermath of child sexual abuse as part of the story and even includes a pretty graphic image. Is that considered obscene under this law? Do you see the problem here? Are you mad yet?
Gotcha, bitch!
Because none of these things will get banned under this potential law. Yeah, it turns out these journalists at Dexerto and Niche Gamer, and probably several others, did not fully understand what was going on, and to be fair, neither did I. because the bill cites a federal law that pretty explicitly lays out the criteria that the content has to be of a real person or indistinguishable from a real person. Even then, the wording of the bill may make it get stricken down as unconstitutional anyway, so I seriously doubt this law will affect anything, but if it does, I'll include it in a future video. Now for the rest of the shorter stories. Acclaim is back, and well, that's about it. I don't think they have any new games confirmed in the works yet, and it'll probably be a while before we see any results from them, but if they're worthy, you know, keep your eye on the RNG release list, of course. We got a couple potentially major lawsuits in the gaming world, the first being a lawsuit against Chinese company NetEase, who recently put out the game Marvel Rivals, by the way. They're being sued by State of Decay co-creator for defamation for $900 million. Damn. Good luck with that one. The second lawsuit is one between two parties that I think I would prefer to see both lose, somehow. Please? Okay, I know it doesn't work that way, but it's Kotaku, an activist rag disguised as gaming journalist, being sued by Bobby Kotick, former Activision Blizzard CEO known for making the company one of the most hated in the industry. So yeah, both lose, please. The European Commission is going after virtual currencies in video games and apps. This was sparked by a game called Star Stable, which allegedly has very deceptive in-game currency rates and targets children with their style and advertisements. While I'm always on the fence about the government getting involved in this, I have no sympathy for these scam game companies, so if they get shafted from this, I can't say I care all that much. PlayStation. How are they doing, I wonder? Well, they suffered more layoffs again. This time their Visual Arts and Malaysia studios were the big victims, two support studios that worked on some of PlayStation's first-party games. PlayStation has had some pretty unimpressive years lately, so this doesn't come as much of a surprise. On a related note, Life is Strange Double Exposure won some sham activism or something awards at the GDC, but nobody was around to collect them because almost the entire staff got laid off. I guess propagandizing your games doesn't sell very well, does it? And now, it's time for Last Month in Localization.
Apply the sacred ointment, Popo.
Actually, I don't really have anything major this time. Xenoblade X Definitive Edition released last month, which just made the discourse around the game's original localization from 2015 resurface. If you don't remember, there has been quite a lot of criticism over the game's English script, and there was a bit of censorship and the female player character had the bust size slider completely removed, but only in the international versions, not the Japanese version. This time, that censorship is present in all Switch versions. So yeah, unfortunately that's something to keep in mind if you were planning on buying it, if you care. Another small story that's possibly semi-related to localization, Inti Creates, the creators of the Galgun series, have a new game, a Metroidvania by the name Gal Guardian's Demon Purge, but for some reason Microsoft is either dragging their feet again or just rejecting the game outright because they announced the Xbox version release would be postponed after consultation from Microsoft, which is not very informative, so people were concerned it's due to some silly Western standards or something like that. There were concerns that the game would be censored on PlayStation as well, but according to the developers, that was only for store and promotional material, and all the in-game content is the same on all platforms. On a different note, there was something interesting that happened last month. A while back, I mentioned that someone was working on a Xenosaga Pied Piper remake, which is still in development, and you can find it on itch.io. But now, we also miraculously have the original game preserved, as the original version of the game has been dumped online somehow. So if you wanted to experience the game in its original format in all its 144p or whatever format, now you can. There were several showcases in March as well, and yeah, there's the elephant in the room, and we'll get to that even though it's not from this month. But first, we had Dames for Games on March 4th, for those weirdos who care about the gender of your game's developers for some reason. Tesura Games Connect on the 6th, a showcase of games from a Spanish publisher. Not sure how much of it supports English, so keep that in mind. Nacon Connect 2025 on the 6th. Humble Games Showcase 2025 on the 12th. Nippon Ichi Software Untitled on the 14th. Japanese only show. No new Disgaea announcement, unfortunately. Mixed Spring Showcase on the 17th. This one was super long, so I don't recommend it. Future Games Show Spring Showcase on the 20th, for those who love listening to voice actors talk on stage. And on the 27th, the big show of the month, the Sugoi Showcase 2025.
Gotcha, bitch!
Oh yeah, there was also a Nintendo Direct on the 27th. It was pretty mid. And of course, in this video I want to talk about what happened on April 2nd, the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. Yes, I know this is not a March story, but I might as well bring it up since it's all people are talking about right now anyway. Like, who even cares about literally anything I've talked about in this video so far, am I right? But yeah, I'll keep it brief and focus on what you need to know. Obviously, the Switch 2 is quite a bit more powerful. Seems to be around or a bit above the Steam Deck. You can play almost all your Switch 1 games on it. You will be able to transfer your data from Switch 1 to Switch 2, kinda like how we could from Wii to Wii U, I assume. It will set you back around $500 US if you factor in tax, and a possible price hike due to tariffs that haven't been confirmed yet. If you're in Canada, set aside 700 Canadian, Europe 500-ish euros, UK over 400 pounds, Australia $700. Sounds expensive, but it's somewhat in line with the PS5 or Xbox, so keep that in mind. For games, on the other hand, Nintendo had the bright idea of raising the standard game price to whatever they feel like, since they want to price their games on a case-by-case basis. So, in the US, Mario Kart is $70 digital, $80 physical. Yep, they are giving us the physical tax now, and it's even more expensive in other countries. By comparison, we here in the States don't have it that bad, but still, Nintendo, your games are not worth $80. Most of the time, they don't even live up to the $60 price tag these days, and the ones that do are the rare exceptions. In addition to that, there are now going to be physical game key cards, which don't actually have the game on them, just some data, and you have to download the majority of it, meaning these have a limited shelf life until the Switch 2 becomes obsolete and Nintendo decides to shut it down. But apparently before that happens, these can be traded and used freely in different consoles as if they were actual physical games, which people are saying this may replace the digital code in a box garbage that we got for some games on Switch 1, but that hasn't been confirmed yet. I think. This is a better alternative than just codes in a box, but what I think will happen is some companies, mainly third parties, will opt for this instead of doing a normal physical release, like Squeenix is doing with Bravely Default. They are also going to try and resell you versions of Switch 1 games that will get a performance boost. Some of these will be in paid expansions, others will be free updates on the Switch 1 versions, and a handful of them will receive full new Switch 2 versions with the upgrades included in the physical format too. The system also has a new C button that pretty much is exclusively an online functionality button, so it's useless unless you pay for Switch Online, which also will have new features like better game chat, about time, and limited video feed sharing with friends. Also, GameCube games will be a thing for Switch Online, but it looks like it will only support 3 games at launch, so keep that in mind. So, if you haven't made a decision yet, or aren't feeling totally committed to buying the Switch 2, here's what I think. Wait. If you're not a content creator or can't somehow benefit from getting one early, just wait. See what happens. Of all the things they've shown, the console itself is at least the safest buy, since it can probably run all of your Switch 1 games, and the price isn't in egregious territory, at least in my opinion. So if you're looking for a replacement Switch and want to transfer all your data or something, it might actually be a good buy for you. Like, my Switch sometimes makes angry noises with the cooling fan, so it's probably got a limited time left, just saying. But if getting your hands on one early means you have to waste time preserving a spot or going through some other time-wasting process to get one day one, I wouldn't bother. For the games, well, that's up for you to decide as well. If you want to be a pay pig, nobody's going to stop you. If not, here's what I recommend. Since Nintendo wants to value them on a case-by-case basis, you should do the same. Wait. Don't pre-order. See what's being said about the games after they come out. Then decide if the game is worth the value. If it's not, check back at some point in the future. Keep an eye on eBay and places like that where the games can be found below MSRP pretty often. Yes, even Nintendo ones. Seen it myself many times. In the meantime, there are several lifetimes worth of video games out there for you to enjoy, so don't get hung up on this like many people are doing. You don't owe Nintendo any loyalty. They are a corporation. They will take advantage of that loyalty in any way they can without remorse, to squeeze out as many dollars out of you as they possibly can. And in many people's eyes, that's what they are doing right now with this price hike. They know that people will just bend the knee and take it. Will you? And remember, you can find all these showcases linked in the description. With all that out of the way, time for the worst take of the month. And we had a lot to choose from, but... Wait, hold on. What the fuck?
Oh, hello there. You thought you would have an April RNG video without me, but here I am, taking over this garbage channel once again. Of course I had to come back to witness what utter dumpster fire of a worst take this month has in store, because roasting these silly fanboys and journalists and brainlets is my specialty. Ha 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 ha. But leave it to lowest expectations to be lazy and late and gay once again, so I couldn't regale you with my beautiful voice for this year's April Fool's Day. Doesn't matter, you cannot keep me away. I am inevitable. I hoped you like my cameo in the Naruto Boundless Trails video lowest expectations put up recently. I did a pretty good job if I do say so myself. But anyway, you aren't here for that, are you? You're here to witness what fresh hell last month's take spawned from, which unfortunately means I will not be able to pick from the worst takes regarding the Nintendo Switch 2. Sag. But that's okay, March still had quite a stinker. But of course, Lowest likes to shout out something almost as dumb here beforehand, so I'd like to mention the silly anti-wokies who have lost the plot and started attacking harmless games like Split Fiction. Ha 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 wow. They're so insecure about their masculinity that they have to latch onto and attack any popular game that isn't made for men, because they are little man-children clowns that get their jimmies rustled when someone else's toys aren't made for them. But the worst take of the month is very easily the insufferable retardation that took place that was inspired by the Pokemon Legends ZA trailer. And one of the starter Pokemon in that game happens to be arguably the worst starter Pokemon in the series from a gameplay perspective, Chikorita. Wow. Apparently, this cutesy little green bean with stubby legs was the source of a major controversy last month because, did you know, that if you don't like Chikorita, you must also hate women? Yes, that's right boys, you are a misogynist if you don't like this Pokemon. Pack it up, you're a bigoted little gremlin boy and need to be cancelled. Ha 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 ha. The whole controversy kicked off right at the beginning of the month, thanks to this article by the Mary Sue. If you don't know anything about the Mary Sue, it's pretty much a radical feminist waste of space that you should never take seriously. Like I don't even have to go over anything in this article to know it is beyond stupid. And this video by YouTuber Cecily also went a little viral, only made the situation worse regardless of the content of the video. The fact that you would even entertain the idea that Pokemon fans are sexist because they don't like an 87% male Pokemon is the most laughable thing in the world. So excuse me while I laugh at you all. Ha 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 ha. If you tourists knew anything about the Pokemon series, you would know that the real reason people don't like Chikorita is because if you pick that starter, you will struggle for quite a lot of the Johto games, mainly in the beginning. It's like putting the game on hard mode. So since the vast majority of Pokemon players are filthy casual scrubs who are bad at video games, they don't like using any starter Pokemon that they can't rely on as a crutch and carry them through the entire game. Ha 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 ha. Skill issue. Get good. It has nothing to do with sexism, you oversensitive self-centered entitled feminist twats. That is all from me gamer boys, ta-ta for now, see you next April.
Well, damn. Thanks, Brian, for doing my job for me, I guess.
You're welcome. So long, gay boy. Ha 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 ha.
Bitch. Anyway, I should mention that I came out recently as a Chikorita lover, that huggable little pair with legs, such a cutie. So whenever I decide to play Pokemon Legends ZA, you know which starter I'm using. I don't have any more important stories to cover, so I hope you'll enjoy a bit of self-indulgence on this last one. If you remember the PlayStation State of Play from February, there was a game called Dreams of Another, which was one of the 2 games shown at that showcase that was an actual exclusive, but, well, it was announced that it no longer is. Why am I bringing this up? Just so I have an excuse to play this again. One game, I don't know why! Thank you for indulging in my retardation. Time for some releases. Remember, you can always keep track of every game covered on this list and on the channel in general by following my Steam curator, link in the description. There were a couple of games from February I missed, including a game about digging a hole on February 7th. Yeah, I don't need to tell you what it's about. I also missed your mom, which is odd because she's so fat, you can't miss her.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Your mother on February 28th. It's one of those desktop companion things. It's only $1. And starting with last month's games, we have Everhood 2 on March 4th. A trippy action RPG with musical elements. Knights in Tight Spaces on March 4th. A card battler strategy game that simulates fight sequences. 2 Point Museum on March 4th. A popular new entry in the 2 Point series. This time you manage a museum. Just be aware it has de nouveau. War Robots Frontiers came out of early access on March 4th. A free-to-play PvP mech fighter game. Seems to have some issues right now though. Mainframes on March 6th. A puzzle platformer where the windows on a PC are the platforms. Don't compulsively click that X button like I always do or you'll die. Memory Loss on March 6th, a top-down cyberpunk hack-and-slash and shooter where you can possess your enemies. Morkel Ragast's Rage on March 6th, a simple Metroidvania where you play as an edgy little god of death. One Lonely Outpost came out of early access on March 6th, a sci-fi themed farming simulator type game, in case you ever wanted to farm on alien soil. Rewind Girl on March 6th, a cute puzzle platformer where you can rewind time as well as your previous actions to solve puzzles. Slime Heroes on March 6th, a goofy little Souls-like game where you play as goofy little slimes. Split Fiction on March 6th, a very positively received co-op game where the worlds of sci-fi and fantasy collide, for people who have friends, as long as you're okay with giving EA money. Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster on March 6th. I don't think I need to explain this one. From what I've heard, it actually has better translations than the original English versions. Muffle's Life Sentence on March 7th, an episodic card battler RPG with dark humor. The first episode is free, just saying. Scarlet City of Devils on March 7th, a Metroidvania featuring lewd demon girls. Need I say more? Sugar Dew Island on March 7th, your typical cutesy farm and shopkeeper sim of the month. Beyond the Ice Palace 2 on March 10th, an action platformer reminiscent of classic Castlevania that's also a revival of a long-dead franchise. Too bad about the reviews so far though. Hauntsville on March 10th, a co-op horror shooter with survival and crafting elements where you fight against otherworldly monsters alone or with friends. Wanderstop on March 11th, another farming and life sim with a focus on the story. Fate Reawakened on March 12th, an action RPG dungeon crawler. Seems mixed so far, but hey, the more alternatives to Diablo 4 we have, the better. Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? Familia Myth, Full Land of Water and Light on March 12th. Long title. Play it if you like the anime, I guess. Metal Bringer on March 12th, an action roguelite hack and slash with an old school anime style. Lustful Victor on March 13th, a 2D pixel cyberpunk action game with some pretty nice details. Unfortunately, I can't show you them because the game is for adults only. Pathologic 3 Quarantine on March 17th, a first-person immersive sim with horror elements about a plague-stricken town. This is a free prologue as well. Roguelite Deck Builder on March 17th. Get it? Build decks. Try not to hammer your hand. Rainbreaker on March 18th, a medieval punk roguelite with that modern art and color style. March 20th is a big day. Yeah, Ascreed came out, but so did a bunch of other games, including Atelier Yumiya, The Alchemist of Memories, and The Envisioned Land. What is this, the 26th game in the Atelier series now? JRPG series with lots of item crafting and now more open world than ever. Seems to have some technical issues on PC though. Bleach Rebirth of Souls. Bleach Rebirth of Souls on March 20th. If you like the Bleach anime, this one's for you. If not, it's probably a mediocre 3D fighter. Geomythica on March 20th, an old school style party-based action RPG where you play as a football player of all things. Eizon on March 20th, a 3D action game with some very intricate character and world design. Rendering Ranger R2 Rewind on March 20th, a Super Nintendo developed 2D shooter that never saw the release in the West. Now you can play this with power. Robo Samurai on March 20th, a 3D robot samurai combat game. You weeb. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition on March 20th. In case you missed out on Wii U, now you can play it on Switch. You weeb. And in case you aren't convinced that there are plenty of alternatives to Ass Creed yet, Yasuke Simulator also came out on March 20th. Truly the historically accurate action game of all time. You realist weeb. Iron Saga Versus on March 21st. More fighting robots in a 2D fighter. For you fucking weebs. MASH VP came out of early access on March 21st. A weeb rhythm game. Yeah, you fucking weeb. Okay, I'll stop. Look Outside on March 21st, a creepy pixel RPG with survival horror elements. Urban Jungle on March 21st, a casual hippie home designer game, but mostly for petting your cat. Zexion on March 21st, pixel art Metroidvania, very Metroid-y sci-fi style. Redemption of Liyuan on March 23rd, your gritty Souls-like of the month, this time set in China. Dark Deity 2 on March 24th, a strategy JRPG Fire Emblem clone that's probably better than Fire Emblem because it's not Fire Emblem. River Towns on March 24th, a casual city builder that plays like a puzzle game. Sono Kuni on March 24th, a pixel art top-down hack-and-slash game with some wild graphical style to it. Bloodcrawler on March 25th, a turn-based JRPG. Probably can't show the trailer, but maybe I can get away with this screenshot. Breakout Beyond on March 25th, an all-new version of the original Atari game that goes back to 1976. The Deadly Path on March 25th, a dark strategy and resource management roguelite. Seems to be mixed at the moment. Bubble Ghost Remake on March 26th, a full remake of the 1987 Atari ST game. Don't get Bubble Boy popped. Ina Dream Barbecue on March 26th, a free surrealist first-person exploration game. Did I mention it's free? Go get it. Gal Guardians Servants of the Dark on March 26th, as long as you're not looking for the Xbox version at least. Haha. It's a Metroidvania this time. Grit and Valor on March 26th, a real-time strategy mech game. More giant robots for you to choose from. It's a great day to be a gamer. Mother Machine on March 26th, a 2D roguevania where you go through procedurally generated alien caves. And die a lot, probably. Twilight Monk on March 26th, another Metroidvania. No, I'm not going back to making that top 20 anytime soon. Haha. AI Limit on March 27th, another Souls-like, this time with robot waifus. Easy sell, to be honest. Asura Jang on March 27th, a free-to-play PvP top-down anime-style fighter. You try hard weeb.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Atomfall on March 27th, a Fallout-like first-person open-world action-adventure shooter. Inaya, Life After Gods on March 27th, another Metroidvania. They don't stop coming and they don't stop coming and they don't stop coming. Karma, The Dark World on March 27th, a cinematic dystopian horror game. Sounds like mostly a walking sim, but it looks pretty compelling. Saga Frontier 2 Remastered on March 27th, another pixel remaster, or whatever this is supposed to be called. It's missing some languages the original version had for some reason though. Sports Renovations on March 27th. No, I'm not including a basic bitch sports game. It's a game where you renovate sports buildings. Way more fun, obviously. The First Berserker Kazan on March 27th, the other Dark Souls-like of the month. This one got pretty hyped, so if you're into it, you probably already have it. Squirreled Away on March 28th, a squirrel simulator. Play as a squirrel and build squirrel tree houses and stuff. Also has co-op. Tower of Kalamonvo on March 28th, an old-school style action RPG. Now you have an alternative to playing Diablo 2 for the 666th time too. Magical Beat on March 31st, a classic-style puzzle game with rhythm elements. Includes some BlazBlue music, so it will probably sound good. Merchant 64 on March 31st, a Nintendo 64-style casual traveling merchant and life sim. Enjoy those shitty and cute graphics, you boomer. Pole Stay came out of early access on March 31st, last but certainly not least. This insane-looking tower defense game where you defend a guy from having to leave his room and interact with people. I find this utterly relatable, and I may have to play it. And there you go. Plenty of games for you to play instead of Assassin's Creed Shadows or getting a Switch 2. You're welcome. Remember, if a company is doing something shitty or not giving you what you want, take your money elsewhere. It's that simple. Have a little patience. If you wait, you win. Anyway, thanks for watching this absolute cluster of a video. I might actually make the release list separate from the main video going forward, because that way, in case there's anybody who only cares about one or the other, they don't have to suffer my rambling on things they don't care about. Would you guys be okay with that? Let me know in the comments and leave a comment on whatever thoughts you have about any of these stories or games I showcased. Leave a like on the video if you liked it, or a dislike if you're a salty-ass Creed Shadows slop consumer. Share the video around to anyone you think may enjoy this kind of content, especially those who are sick of the YouTuber news cycle wasting their time. I try to keep these as condensed as possible to prevent that. Now, if only I can get them out on time, that would be nice. Haha. Subscribe for more latent gay content, and check out my other videos such as my top 10s, or catch my streams like my Smash Arena every Monday night at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm also playing through the latest Trails game, so check that out if you want, as long as you don't mind seeing spoilers of a game not out in English yet. You can also follow me on the X-Twitter if you want to stare into the void, or catch my content on Rumble or Odyssey. And as always with this absolute cluster of an industry, have high standards, low expectations.